Welcome to Life on Life Discipleship with Josiah Jones. This is a space where faith gets real. We're all about authentic discipleship, encouraging conversations and practical ways to live out your faith every day. No fluff, no cliches, just real talk about following Jesus and building others. Let's do this.
Well, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Life on Life, where we dive deep into what it means to walk with Jesus, not just on Sundays, but every corner of life. Today, I'm honored to have a conversation with someone whose story touches on fame, pressure, identity, and redemption. Brandon Finnegan went from pitching in the College World Series, I want to make sure I get this right, to the MLB in the same year. He even became the first player ever to appear in both the College World Series and the Major League World Series in one season. Y'all hear that? One season. But like many of us who are watching this, listening to this podcast, his journey wasn't just about what happened on the field. His journey is filled with highs and lows. Today, we're going to talk about what it looks like to follow Jesus in a performance-driven world, how God uses the highs and lows to disciple him, and what manhood and faith look like beyond the game. And so, Brandon, thanks so much for jumping on the podcast. We're really excited that you're here.
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and get to do this with y'all.
Bro, as I took a deep dive in what we call Google, bro, I found some things out. You're married.
I am, yes.
To your wife, your beautiful bride, Becca, correct?
Yes,
and you
sir.
have one child.
Yeah.
His name is Bentley. How old is he?
Crazy man. He's 4.
4 years. I have a 4-year-old.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're in the same boat, man.
Oh, man.
He's all
crazy
boy.
4s.
Yeah, crazy 4s. Well, man, I'm excited personally because of your story and how encouraged I've been by men that are around me that have told me about how God has arrested your heart. But man, the game of baseball really is a kindredness as well. Not just Jesus, but the game of baseball. And I'm a huge baseball guy. I didn't accomplish anything close to what you did. I went to a small D3 school, ETBU, East Texas Baptist University in Marshall, Texas.
Okay, yeah.
They just hosted a regional this past week, but they lost. But that's neither here nor there. But man, when I hear of men like you who, have climbed the ranks, but then have hit some rock bottom moments, man, it encourages me because you can turn one of two places, man. You can turn to the world or you can turn to the Word. And it sounds to me that you've turned to the Word. And so, man, tell us about your faith journey. When did Jesus become real to you? And what role did faith play during your time in baseball, whether it was college, even Little League? I don't know what that looked like, but college and the major leagues.
Oh, man. Jesus has been real for me for a long, long time. Me and my family, my parents, they took us to church every Sunday growing up until about, I guess back then the age was probably 12 years old when like baseball really became an every weekend thing. My dad, he played baseball as well, so we're a big baseball family. He played at TCU, got drafted.
Okay, so you followed in his footsteps.
I did, left-handed too.
Wow.
He got hurt and had to go to work, but for me it was really I really started like getting, I would say, closer to God and Jesus in college. I went to TCU. I had a teammate who is now a part of the FCA group at TCU. His name is Mitchell Traver.
Okay.
Great, phenomenal dude from Houston. I watched how just, the word I want to say is holy, just how great of a human being he was. And everything that he talked about was, about God and the Bible. And I was just like, man, that's, in today's world, that's like really admirable, and he, like you, he was very, very biblically sound. He knew, a lot of verses. And I was just, I admired that a lot. And then, our FCA leader at TCU is Chauncey Franks. He
I know Chauncey.
Oh yeah, I love Chauncey.
He's the OG.
He is a man
of FCA at TCU.
Yeah, Chauncey's a man. So
didn't he do your wedding?
He did our wedding.
Okay.
He did our wedding. And he was, so he.
Shout out Chauncey Franks. Come on.
We did our marriage counseling through him too. So like, it was hilarious. He's a funny, great guy. And just, listen to all these other people's like walks of life. I'm just like, all I knew how to do was throw a baseball. That's like, to me, that's all I knew how to do. And I had nothing to fall back on. And I get to pro ball and, I had a lot of great teammates. a lot of them, they were good with the Bible as well. But the one that sticks out the most to me is Michael Lorenzen, who now pitches for the Royals. Good buddy of mine. I played against him in college. He played at I was about to say Pepperdine. It was Cal State Fullerton.
Okay.
Just a stud. But he's the same way as Mitchell. He's very biblically sound. And I was just being around all those guys. I'm like, man, like something's missing, right? Like I loved baseball. I was good at baseball, but like it was just something that wasn't there. I mean, I prayed every single night. I prayed. I knew the only reason I got where I got was because of God. I was very vocal about that, but I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do to get closer to God. I was going to our Sunday chapel, every Sunday, but it's like I wasn't reading the Word after games. I wasn't like diving in. I was just like, I'm kind of like checking off a box, and that's kind of how it was. And then it wasn't until honestly, really, I started dating my wife and getting around her family and her brother-in-law and her sister and her parents. They're just unbelievably godly human beings. And like yourself as well, my brother-in-law Austin, he's a very, very knowledgeable man when it comes to the Bible. And anything that I've ever had a problem with, like in life or my marriage, whatever, I've gone to him and he goes straight to the Bible and he recites all these verses. I'm like, God, I want to be able to do that. Yeah. I want to. And like his parents are the same way. It's just being around that group of family now is what drove me to start diving in more. My wife included. Last year she got baptized on her birthday. Wow. Which also shares with her brother-in-law, and he did the baptism. So she really, really dove deep into the Bible, and watching her walk with that was very, very admirable. And going through the stuff that I've gone through in the last year and a half, I knew like something had to change. And I just wasn't taking the time or the steps to do the things that I needed to do to make a change. And until my brother-in-law Austin invited me to do Bible study. And we went over Revelation starting in last September. And
diving in the deep end.
Diving real deep.
Wow.
Right? That's what everybody said, like, oh, this is your first one. You're getting in deep quick.
Good
I was
night.
like, oh gosh, what am I about to witness here? And, went through it with him and his father, and man, it was deep. And then I got to a point where, like, for me, I always, like, whenever I read a Bible verse, like, sometimes I just didn't understand it. Just the wording and, stuff like that, it just wasn't sticking with me. And finally, we were going through a lot as a family early on this year, and what was it? I guess the Friday right before Easter, we went to the Easter service at Keystone, which we just started going to last October.
Right here in Keller, Texas.
Right here in Keller, yeah.
Okay.
Brandon and Susan, we just fell in love with immediately, and we wouldn't have ever gone there if it wasn't for Zach and his wife and Austin and my sister-in-law. So like.
Shout out to Zach behind the camera right now. He's the camera guy.
Staley, they were like, y'all need to go here. Yeah.
Let's go.
So
and they're neighbors. They're your neighbors. Like y'all live right next to each other.
Door, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My son's loving it too. So, but Brandon kept talking about getting baptized, and I had never fully been like the submerged baptized before. So, it was on my mind, but I thought there were steps I needed to take to do that first. And I sat down with Jeff Payne, who's one of the pastors at Keystone, and he's like, yeah, that's actually would be your first step if you think about it. And I was like, okay, cool. So I thought about it for a while, and we're going through that Easter service, and Brandon's talking about baptism. I just feel it on my chest. Like I've started, like my palms are getting sweaty, and I'm like, I just get this feeling in my chest I need to do it. And like her whole family was there. My brother-in-law's whole family was there. Our nephews, my son. I was like, and he ended it. He goes, as soon as we're done with this chapel or this service, go outside if you want to get baptized, and we'll
called you right there on the spot.
Right there on the spot. So I was like, and I don't see anybody. I walk out and I'm like whispering to my wife, and I'm like, I feel like I need to do it tonight. And she's like trying to talk me into it. I was like, I just don't want people to watch me do it. Like, I was nervous but then I was just like, you know what? Like, I don't care. So she talked me in, like she helped me walk through it, and I went up there and I was like, I want to get baptized. And then I walked back in the room. There's like 6 other people. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm not doing this by myself, but like the feeling that I got the moment that was over with, and till today, it's just the weight of the world has been lifted off my shoulders. I feel like any doubts or like bad thoughts that I had has been kind of like just washed away. And I've started diving into the word more, starting to, I used to get mad and hold grudges. I'm getting better at that. Still not all the way done with it, but I'm getting better with it. But it's just like things are getting easier while still being hard at the same time. And, that was kind of just the whole spiel of like how, I got into the Bible and started following Jesus from, a young age to now.
Wow. So as I'm hearing you talk, your faith is more of a progression.
Oh yeah.
Versus like that Paul moment where he gets kicked off a horse and he falls to the ground. And he's got this amazing moment with him and Jesus is looking at him saying, Paul, why are you persecuting me? Or Saul. You've known about God. You were introduced to who Jesus is at a young age, went to church, but it was more of a checkbox. Maybe even just call it religion.
Yeah.
You had a form of godliness, but maybe denied the power thereof. And you played college baseball at a Division I school at TCU, shout out. And then you get drafted and you're still kind of having this form of godliness, kind of maybe wear the cross necklace around your neck every baseball player does and 100%. Goes to chapel. And but there's never really a hunger or a thirst to know God personally.
Yes.
And the call of the gospel is Jesus didn't die for you just to check a box.
Yep. He
died for you so that you would have a personal relationship with him. And what I hear you saying is just within a matter of weeks or months, brother, you have surrendered your life to Christ.
Definitely. And like, the way you say that, you're right. Like, I would, like I told you, I would pray every night and I'd pray before I'd go into pitch. I'm like, just please, like, help me get through this. Like, stuff like that. Like, but I did it.
There's nothing inherently wrong with you praying, but I think what you're saying is Jesus was no more than a rabbit's foot redeemer.
Yeah.
He was just kind of a good luck charm.
Yeah, exactly. And I wasn't doing that extra step to become a more, godly human being or do the things that God wanted me to do to go on his path.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think the things that I've been going through the last, year and a half was for him to show me that, always, try to not feel that way. But I think that's why everything's happened. And, I'm thankful for it. As much as I miss playing baseball, I'm thankful to be home with my wife and my kid and, going through the things I'm going through with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're 100% right in that.
What I'm observing just by hearing you share and what I'm hearing is you've had a lot of success in your life. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. I mean, you were the poster child for just every kid's dream, playing in Little League and probably playing a lot of travel ball. And those of you that are watching right now who are playing baseball and probably have followed Brandon Finnegan's story a little bit. We'll get there. I want to double click a little bit more on that story because it's an amazing one, as I shared in the intro. But you've had a lot of success early on, getting to go to TCU. I'm sure it was a scholarship and then getting drafted in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And so, man, all this success comes with just a performance-driven type of identity. That, man, when you're high, you're high.
Oh, yeah.
But when you're low, you're low.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's probably true in some ways that, man, you've experienced a lot of highs early on. And sometimes when we're at the mountaintop, we don't need God.
Exactly.
He just is more of an accessory than the necessity of our life.
Yeah.
I don't know how comfortable you feel right now, so we can, you can say hard pass, bro. But you kept saying, man, in the last year and a half, in the last few months, man, we've gone through it.
Yeah.
Do you want to give that any more color? Do you want to go a little deeper into what you're talking about?
My last season playing baseball was 2023, and I played indie ball. Coming off actually what I thought was a pretty good year in 22 with the White Sox. I was in AAA. Had a terrible bad April. Usually my first month was pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
But then I went, like 2.5 months without giving up a run. And they went from like, hey, we're about to call you up to, we went on All-Star break, came back, went like 6 innings, gave up 2 or 3 runs, which is not bad. And then the draft happened and they cut everybody. And I was one of those guys. I was an older guy on the team. I'd been around for a while and I was like, all right, I'll probably get picked up. I was having a good year, like maybe not good ERA wise, but it was a good year. I had one bad month and, I didn't get picked up. I thought I would get picked up going into the next year because we only had, at that time in 22, we only had a month left in the season. So we've kind of been pointless unless they had a thought of calling me up. But I went to Mexico for 2 days in 2023.
Wait, why'd you go there for 2 days?
I was going to play. Okay. So I signed with a team called the Acereros de Monclova.
Okay. What a name.
Yeah, what a name. But I went there I signed with them. I was going to go play for them for the season. Was told there was an airport there in the city, so it'd be easy for my wife and son to fly out. That was not right. Flew into Mexico City, 3-hour drive on a 2-lane road with cop stops every hour. And it was the sketchiest thing ever. And, I get put in this Motel 6 type hotel in Mexico.
We'll leave the light on for you.
I'm the furthest room away from the front, and I'm freaking out, So no part of me, the first night alone, I was like, yeah, this ain't happening. I went to practice the next day, it just wasn't what I was used to. And knowing that I wasn't going to allow my wife and my son to come out and see me for, 6 months, was like, I'm done. So I came home, ended up signing with Kansas City Monarchs, and, had a great year.
Which, let me stop you right then and there. They used to be the Kansas City T-Bones. So here's another connection we have. So I graduated in December of 2006. I'm old. Bro. I'm old. I'm not young and fit like you. But I graduated in December of 2006. Didn't get picked up. I went to a D3 school, but then went to an open tryout for the Kansas City T-Bones.
No way.
Yeah. No, this is no lie. Wow. This is a connection point for you and me. I get invited to their spring training, just a mini camp.
Yeah.
And guys are getting cut. I'm the only guy in the clubhouse that has never been drafted. I'm a good clubhouse guy. I always say that, man, I wasn't the most talented, but I'll hustle you and do the little things well, right? And so it's the last day of spring training. In the last week, people are getting cut left and right. And so I was like, man, this has got to be the day that I get cut. So I'm taking BP, I'm shagging balls out in the field, and it's awesome. I'm like, man, I'm soaking it up. Beautiful day in the Midwest, right? 65 and sunny. Man, just, what it's like in the Midwest that time of year.
Yeah.
And I'm walking in the clubhouse, and Skip, the manager, calls me into his office. And I'm like, here we go. But you know what? My identity is secure. At that point, God had already rested my heart. And man, I was just doing this because I felt like I had something left in the tank. So he sits me down and slides the contract over to me and says, hey, we want to sign you. And all of my dreams as a little boy was coming true in that moment. It was amazing, bro.
Wow. That's awesome.
So before they were the Monarchs, they're the Kansas City T-Bones, right?
Yep.
And I love that field. It was an incredible experience. And everything in that moment hit for me. And it was incredible.
That's awesome.
But I had to share that because, we had that connection, right?
But
here, listen, I ended up starting opening day, not because I was the most talented, but because of a extenuating circumstance with our third baseman. So the left fielder goes to third base. I play left field.
Okay.
I grew up playing infield, a first base in college, and I had to learn outfield when I got to pro ball. And had an okay opening day, and then went up to Winnipeg, Winnipeg Gold Eyes. Remember him?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I went 0 for 4, and that was the rest of my career.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I get put on waivers, go to Chicago, nobody picks me up, and that's the end of it. But man, it was one of those moments where I look back and I'm like, God, you answered a prayer of mine, which I never thought in 1,000 years, man, I would ever play
crazy.
Just touch professional baseball.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. It's a sweet story,
dude. That is cool.
I love the fact that we're sitting across the table.
Playing for the same team.
I can say, the Brandon Finnegan. I played for the same team he played for. Now I wish it was the Kansas City Royals. You got to play for. And so that's a little bit of my claim. That's awesome, claim to fame.
That is. Was it Coach Joe?
No. Andy McCollum.
Okay, yeah.
Remember Andy?
I know the name. Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's sick. Yeah.
I think he's still coaching in the Frontier League or something like that now.
The old T-Bones, man.
Yes,
that's
sir.
awesome, dude.
So you get picked up by them.
Yeah. So I signed with them. Okay. Started again for the first time since 2018, and started the whole year. Didn't miss a start. Had a good year. Won a championship.
Wow. Yeah, you did.
And I wasn't ready to be done. I came home that off season. I went through my normal off season training, and then I had fired my old agent and found a new one. He set up a pro day for me in Arizona that January. So last January.
Wow. This is a year ago.
Dude, yeah.
In a few months.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I went out and threw and I did well, you know. I was one of those guys that like, I didn't throw hard in live BPs, but I threw hard in games. It was just something.
Adrenaline kicked in.
I needed the adrenaline. I was an adrenaline junkie, but I threw well. I guess they didn't think the video was what they wanted to see, which is fine. They were interested, but never heard anything else. And then, yeah, I was just essentially retired. I didn't officially say I retired until September, but about May, I was like, yeah, I know I'm done.
Wow.
And that was, man, at that point, I thought that was the hardest thing I'd ever like gone through. I'd been playing baseball since I was 4 years old. And that's, you know, that's all, like, that was my identity. I thought I was, you know, Brandon Finnegan, a baseball player, not, you know, I just play baseball. So that I got lost in that. And as soon as I didn't have a degree to fall back on, you know, and the last thing I want to do is go back to school.
Yeah. And you're still, yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to go back to school after they've been out for that many years. And you played a decade of pro ball, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're also wrestling with, man, is my faith real?
Yeah.
You know, I know I believe in God, but even the demons believe in God, James says.
100%.
You know, men and women always say what they think, but they do what they believe.
Yeah.
And you're wrestling with this identity crisis, if you will.
Yeah. Oh,
right? And a lot of your identity, you know, is based in your performance. So you had manic highs, you had manic lows, and when you were high, man, your identity is secure.
Oh yeah.
When you're in the pit, when your identity is low, a low self-esteem, low acceptance.
Droopy, man. I was dragging my head, you know, it's just, I was lost. I had, you know, I the things that, you know, I was just not happy. I didn't know what the next step was. I was scared of what the next step was because all I knew was baseball.
Wow.
And, you know, so I put my wife and my son through that. I just wasn't myself at all. I was, you know, miserable to be around. The only time I was like really ever happy was if I was golfing because that was like my getaway.
Yeah. Your oasis.
Yeah. So like it was tough. I mean, and I was applying to job after job after job just to do it, right? Just to like essentially start something new and then get my mind off of what I just lost essentially. Cause to me, it was like a death, you know, and in a way it was like that Brandon's gone, not coming back, time for a new Brandon. And like, honestly, I didn't know what was going to come. I kept praying like, why is this happening to me? Like, what did I do for this to happen? Like, please just take over my life. And like, I prayed that and prayed it. And like, I didn't feel like I was fighting it, but I guess until I got baptized and I said those words that night again, after I got baptized, and like, I felt a different feeling.
What were those words?
I just like, look, God, I want you to take control of my life. I want you to, you know, just guide me through these tough times and show me what you want me to see. And for the first time that next morning, I felt different once I got baptized. Because
you know what the Bible calls that? Surrender.
Yeah. And I thought I was surrendering for like the last, you know, year or two, and something wasn't allowing me to. And I couldn't tell you what it was. Because to me, I was like, yeah, I've prayed those words hundreds of times. But because there's times where I was doing it 3 times a day. I was like, please, 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 you know, and the stress was still there. I just felt like I was just tense at all times. And, you know, I just wasn't happy. I was real quick to anger. I was real quick to sadness. Anything my wife said just upset me. Like it was like she hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
But,
and there's no one that can hurt us more than our wives.
They know how to dig deep.
They know. And we know how to dig deep on them.
Exactly.
Yeah, we know how to throw the flaming arrows.
You're right, dude. I mean, until I got baptized, nothing felt like, you know, I was doing the right thing.
And it wasn't the baptism that saved you.
Yeah.
It was the cry of your heart of what you said before.
Yes.
Your baptism is just, for those of you listening, your baptism is just a symbol.
Mm-hmm.
It's an outward expression of an inward commitment.
Yeah.
That you say yes to Jesus. I'm no longer my own. Lord, you this valley you're taking me in, this, you know, Ecclesiastes talks about it. Ecclesiastes 3 talks about he gives and takes away.
Mm-hmm.
There's a time for everything. And he had to literally take away baseball.
Yeah.
for you to get to a place of,
open my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the very thing that we're placing our entire identity in to realize we need a new identity. I want to circle back real quick because you commit your life to Jesus, you surrender, you use those words, but you said something like, hey, it's not like everything got better.
Yeah.
Actually, it's still hard.
Oh, 100%.
And again, people think that they come to Christ and everything's going to get better.
Yeah.
He doesn't promise that. He promises to save us from our sin and gives us a personal relationship with Jesus. Proverbs 14:12 says there's a way that seems right to man, but that way ends in death.
Mm-hmm.
And so he promises to give us a new way of living that will lead to life, that will lead to peace, that will lead to purpose, that will lead to kindness and love. But he doesn't promise ease. I mean, this world is broken.
Oh yeah.
And so I want to double down real quick on what, if you feel comfortable, what are the things that, man, are swirling around right now in your world?
Oh man.
That has caused more pain.
Yeah.
But now you know how to kind of handle it and respond to it because you're a man that just didn't get saved by Jesus, but he's given you a new way of thinking.
Yeah.
And now a new way of living.
So just recently, we've just been dealing with a lot of, financial stuff, of course. In today's world, that's normal.
Oh yeah.
And we thought, it was the end of the world. I thought what I had went through last year with baseball was hard. That had nothing on what we've been going through as a family.
Wow.
But we got through it. We're getting through it, and that's all because of God. And luckily, we have great neighbors in our family that we just kind of, relied on for help and, ways to get through things, just advice. And the advice that we've gotten has literally walked us through a different door. We thought, we moved here 3 years ago. We thought we were going to lose our house. We were just kind of, it's just like taxes, this thing happens, just like, what's going on here? I had worked since 2023.
And you were a Major League Baseball player. So people listening right now are like, how is this guy struggling financially? He should be set for life.
Exactly. And that's what I thought. I signed for a lot out of college. I wasn't a crazy spender.
Right.
I love shoes. A lot of them were free, in all fairness.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like we were doing things. We weren't living way out of our means. We weren't buying crazy things.
Yeah.
We were just doing things like going to eat. I was going golfing all the time, buying a shirt or at a golf course I knew I wasn't probably going to get to play again or golf shoes or, my wife buying clothes because she needed it, or clothes for our son. It's just everything piles up, right? Gas. And it's just oh crap. What did we do here? And then, finally, I got a new job. I got a job, not a new job. I guess you can call it a new job. It's not baseball anymore, but I got a job and it's, love it. Then I also took on doing lessons. And then, my wife has always killed it in her job. So things started to fall into place. And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but cause it always goes south. But we've been very fortunate with what I did for 10 years and what my wife has done since I've known her. I met her in college. So, she's always killed it in every job that she's had. And, once baseball ended, I think that was my biggest fear was I'm not going to be able to provide for my family anymore. And then that fear became a thing quickly. And, I was losing myself again. It's just who am I? What do I bring to this family? What do I bring to this world? What's my next step? And my identity, I was lost. In my eyes, I didn't have an identity.
Yeah.
I didn't.
He stripped you away.
Yeah.
Think about your identity for a second before Christ. Sports.
Yeah, that was it.
But even money.
Yeah.
Because you
get lost. Yeah.
you get lost in that.
And as a professional athlete, everybody, all they see is all the money they get to make.
Yeah.
What they don't see is the stuff that goes on behind closed doors, right? They don't see that what time these guys are getting to the stadium every day, what they're having to go through every single day, what they're getting said, what they're getting told on social media if they had a bad game, or which in the grand scheme of things, shouldn't matter what other people are saying about you because, you're the athlete. But as an athlete, you want everybody to like you, right? Or I did, at least.
Yeah.
I wanted everybody to be a fan. I wanted everybody to think that I was a good baseball player. I wanted to make my family proud. I want to make my parents proud, my wife proud, my son proud. And I just got like so lost into like, the only way I'm going to do that is if I make X amount of money. Right. And then as soon as that was taken away, I'm like, I'm nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
This is the way of the world. The world says performance driven acceptance.
Yeah.
You perform well, whether it's on the field, in your sport, in your company, you make a lot of money, you get the accolades, you get the success, and then you'll be accepted.
Yeah, it's true.
But then when that's taken away, what do you have left to fall back on?
Yeah.
And God just stripped that from you. And he said, that's not the gospel.
Yeah.
The gospel isn't performance-driven acceptance. The gospel says you're accepted, then perform. Acceptance-driven performance. God doesn't accept you based on your performance.
Yeah.
We have nothing to bring him. When I look at my life before Christ, there was nothing good that I could bring him, right? You too.
Yeah, exactly.
And
nothing.
But the world says, no, you got to perform and then I'll accept you. God says, no, I'll accept you and then you perform from that place.
Yeah.
And even when you don't perform, guess what? My grace is enough to forgive you and to sustain you and to pick you back up and help you keep going. That's the beauty of the gospel.
Yeah.
So then, when I walked into that locker room as a guy who never got drafted, right?
Yeah.
And I had that type of identity that, man, baseball used to drive everything I did.
Yeah.
Sports drove my need for success. Women and money drove my need for approval.
Yeah.
Pornography kept calling my name behind closed doors. But when God saved me from that type of identity, man, I got to play with a different freedom.
Yeah.
And that freedom was like, man, I'm just going to go out there and do the best job that I can do. And then whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
And that last week of spring training, guys are getting cut. And I'm like, God, I know that time's coming. Whether it's this week or the last day of spring training or in 2 months, which that's what it ended up being, right? Man, I can truly say, God, no, I gave it my all. And I'm not, my value is not placed on what I do.
Yeah.
My value is placed on what you've done for me.
Yeah.
See, the world says do, God says done.
And
when you can live from that place, bro, it's freeing.
It took me 10 years of professional baseball and then being done to like understand that.
Yeah.
And it's sad, right? Because I mean, you think about like, oh man, like what if you would have done this? What if that? And it's just like, you know what? It's over and done with. There's no going back. And it took me forever because like I would fight with myself every single day last year. What if I did this? I might still be playing. What if I didn't get traded? I might still be playing. Like what if? What if? And I'm just like, it took me honestly all year to finally just be like, you know what? I did what I needed to do. I played my heart out. I gave it everything I got, no matter what. And that's that. If I wasn't good enough, I wasn't good enough. I got to do something that was a dream. It was an absolute dream. I got to live that dream and so thankful for it. I just didn't do the things early on that I should have done. And you know what? And if it took taking baseball away from me to do the right things, then it needed to be done.
I love it.
Yeah.
Man, here's what I want you to hear. And I just want to go there for a second. Man, you don't even have to live in guilt. That's the beauty of the gospel, where there is no guilt. There is no shame. There is no condemnation. Satan will try to throw that stuff back in your face and say, man, if you would have just been this guy, the guy that you are now in Major League Baseball, look what God would have done.
Yeah.
Man, I believe your best days are yet ahead.
I think so.
I believe that. I know that's hard. I know that's hard to believe. Man, you're only like a year and some change removed from playing professional baseball.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of the gospel, where you don't have to be defined by what you do.
Yeah.
You're defined by what he's done. And that just gives you a freedom. And my Bible says, your Bible says that he redeems the years the locusts have eaten.
Yeah.
And so whatever you think that, man, was lost, and I know there was a lot of amazing things that God did in your professional baseball career, and you wish you would have been connected back to the gospel and who he is and that sort of thing. But man, I truly believe whether it's business, whether it's you staying committed to Becca, being the man that God's called you to be to disciple your little boy, Bentley, right?
Oh yeah.
Come on. and maybe God will give you more. Who knows?
Yeah.
Man, I think your best days are yet ahead. And as much fruit as you were able to produce temporarily here in this world through baseball, man. Like, I can't imagine. Like, only heaven knows, only God knows how he's going to redeem the years that Satan tried to snuff out.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to end with, man. You have an incredible story of getting drafted 2014.
Mm-hmm.
You're the only guy, I think, to this day, right?
Yes, sir.
This is crazy, man. This is your claim to fame, although it pales in comparison with you being a child of God. But it's fun.
Yeah.
But you were drafted in 2014 out of TCU by the Kansas City Royals. Fun fact, I lived in Kansas City 7 years of my life. Before I came to Dallas, I planted a young adult ministry up in Kansas City through a church called Abundant Life. It was awesome. It was amazing. God's doing some incredible things there. I love Kansas City. So they draft you. You go straight to the minor leagues.
I did.
Tell us about that. Tell us about that journey. We can put a bow on this podcast, and maybe there'll be a part 2 sooner than later. But I need you to end with that. It's a crazy story. You're the only guy, so share that. I don't want to share your story for you. It's your story.
No. You, like you said, my junior year, I had a very, very good year. I had a good career at TCU. I did. I always say that the best pitcher that will ever go to TCU is named Preston Morrison. He was. I called him our ace. Like he was there when I was there. We were there in the same class. Unbelievable pitcher. I think he was a 4-time All-American. But
wow.
I had the opportunity to pitch next to him for 3 straight years, and you learn. Like, when people are that good, you learn. And then we also had an amazing pitching coach out of Kirk Sarlos, and I love Coach Sloshenegel, who's now at Texas.
Well, we can double click on that. No, I'm playing.
Yeah.
I'm playing. I want to go there. Part two.
So we, they had just came back from TSA. Sarlos and Slosh had just really, they challenged me to throw strikes with every pitch. Because at that point, that's when I really started getting scouted in Team USA. And the thing that they said that stuck with me the most was, if our team goals are met, your personal goals will be met. And I was like, you're right. Like, I need to stop, thinking I have to do this, and this to be, first rounder or, whatever. So essentially, I just went out there and I just pitched. I just did what I knew I was good at. And I knew that I had a great defense behind me, and I had a great year. We had a great year as a team. We win the Big 12, win the Big 12 championship, host our own regional, run straight through our regional. And then next week is the draft. And at that point, I was supposed to be a top 5 pick.
Wow.
But I had like a little hiccup in the middle of the season right after I faced Texas. I had like a shoulder impingement, but I had to come out of my next start. I just couldn't lift my arm anymore. I thought my career was over with, because it's the same thing I had with my dad. He threw his shoulder out, had to go straight to work. So I walk off the field in front of 30 scouts with my face in my glove, bawling, crying, thinking that my career's over with. Well, my dad comes in the locker room and said, "What's wrong?" And I told him I can't lift my shoulder. So, I got an MRI, nothing wrong, just an impingement, got a shot, missed my next start, came back, everything was great.
Wow.
Going in the draft night, I didn't know if I was going in the first round. I went from I was a for sure top 5, no doubt top 10 pick, to I don't know if I'm going to be a first rounder. So I'm sitting here talking to my agent, and he's like, "You know what? Have your party. You'll be fine." And I was like, all right. So I had all my closest friends and family. Wife was there. We weren't even dating at the time, but she was there. And I'm just pacing back and forth in my parents' house, not knowing what's going to happen. And, so I just hear my name get called, the 17th pick with the Royals. And they were like the team that I talked with the least.
Wow.
And then we go play in the World Series, get put out. And then, I go up to Kansas City to sign my contract, and I get sit down with Jason Kendall, George Brett, and Jeff Foxworthy, who is Ned Yost's. Yeah, I always say that. Everybody's like, "What?"
That's random.
He was Ned Yost's next door neighbor.
Okay,
so he was in the suite with us, and Lonnie Goldberg, who was one of the guys that drafted me, he's like, "This is our plan. We're going to send you to high A. If everything goes well there, we're going to send you to double A, and then if we're still in the hunt for playoffs, we're going to call you up." I literally laughed in all their faces. I was like, "Yeah, okay." And they're like, "No, we're like," George Bear's like, "Yeah, we're not kidding." I was like, "Okay, all right." So, I get sent out to high 2.5 weeks, threw great, called me up to double A. And I was like, there's just no way. AA for 2.5 weeks again. And then like, I get my car the night before. The first thing I purchased with my draft money, I bought a car, got it the night before, went out with the team. Cause the next day, 2 days later was the end of the season. So I get called into the coach's office that next day. When I get to the field, he's like, "Hey, I heard you got a new car last night." I was like, "Yeah, I'm driving it home tomorrow." And they start laughing. And I was like, "What?" Like, "Yeah, you're not going home." I was like, "Man, I'm about to go to Instructs."
Wow.
I was tired, and they're like, "You're going to Kansas City." And I was like, "What?" Like,
Wow.
"Yeah, you're going to the show." So I was like, "This is not real."
Gosh, that's a dream.
It was a dream.
That's
like,
a dream.
so much stuff had to come together for that to ever happen, and then it did.
That's wild.
Yeah, wild.
Well, one thing you missed, let me just say it. You also made it to the College World Series with TCU.
Yeah.
So you get drafted 17th pick, first round, Kansas City Royals, after the College World Series. Then you go to high A. You said that. Go to AA. Said that. Then you get called up to Kansas City. Y'all make a playoff run.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm watching it.
Crazy.
I wish I knew you at that time. I mean, it would have been amazing.
Crazy.
Y'all make a playoff run and make it all the way to the World Series.
Yeah.
So out of everybody in Major League Baseball, what's your claim to fame? Tell them.
Yeah, I was the first and only player to play in both the College World Series and Major League World Series in the same year.
That's incredible, bro.
Yeah, I always say it's the right place, right time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Last question, and we'll end with this. What would you say to the young man out there right now who feels like his whole identity is wrapped up in performance, chasing the dream of playing professional baseball? And you can look right in that camera and say it, whatever you want to say to him.
That's a good question. Honestly, I feel like I would be talking to myself.
Yeah.
For any person that, thinks that their identity is stuck in the sport that they're playing or, the job that they have, I would say, it's not about what you're doing. It's about, who you're doing it for. For me, I always thought that I was Brandon Finnegan. I was a baseball player. That's who I was. It's what I did. And instead of knowing that, God didn't put me on this earth just to play baseball. That took me, almost 32 years to actually figure that out. My advice would be just enjoy what you're doing. Have fun with it. Regardless if it's a sport, a job, nothing at all, whatever. Just enjoy being alive and knowing that, Jesus died for us and put us here to, live for him and do things that they wanted us to do, not, just play a sport. So I would tell myself back then, just enjoy the sport that you're playing. It's a kid's sport, right? Mm-hmm. Like all these sports are kids' sports. They're not, it's not about money. It's not about fame. It's not about, status or who has the nicest car, the biggest house. It's not about any of that. It's about what you're doing for your family, for your life, for God.
Come on, Brandon. It has been
as close as I can get to preaching.
I love it, bro. You're preaching now, man. We're about to have church up in here. Brandon, I so appreciate the way that you have led with honesty, wisdom, and sharing what it really means to walk with Jesus beyond the lights, the status, the pressure that you had. I mean, your story is powerful. And so, man, thanks for being on the podcast. I think we need a part two, bro.
Thank you. I'm down. I'm always down. I live right next door.
Man, for our listeners, if this episode stirred you in any way, man, just reach out to us here at Life on Life. My email will be on the screen. We want to walk with you. Find somebody that can walk with you. One of the things we did not have time for, but Brandon Finnegan today is kind of being discipled by his neighbor, Zach, who's behind the camera. And yep. I love that. And that's why I think we need a part two, bro.
Oh, yeah.
And so, man, that's what Life on Life is all about. And they're living close proximity. I mean it. Like they're living side by side. I can look at his house right now. It's amazing, bro. Man, until next time, here's what I would say for you, Brandon, and for our listeners. Walk faithfully, lead boldly, and don't do it alone. Definitely. Life on Life, that's a wrap. Until next time, have a great week. Peace.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Life on Life. If this spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, tag a friend, and keep the conversation going. Discipleship isn't a program, it's a lifestyle. So go live it out, love people well, and let's make Jesus known.